Hello for one final time, this is Aeolus Kephas. This is Stormy Weather, and these are still the end times. This is not it. This is not what you're looking for. This is a station on your way to self-knowledge. This is an encounter at a bus stop where you shot the shit and passed the time and shared a few perspectives with a stranger. And then the bus came along, you got on, you carried on your way, and you forgot all about that encounter. I'm the guy that was hanging out at the bus stop, taking a different bus. Our paths crossed, and that was that. And so, this is my parting message to you all as I continue on my merry way to the eschaton. I'm going to do my best to sum up certain things leading into the Sorcerers Revelation.
You are confused, aren't you? Frightened. That's all right. I can help you. Who is this? I am a doctor. Now you must listen to me. You have lost your memory. There was an experiment. Something went wrong. Your memory was erased. Do you understand me?
No, I don't understand. What the hell is going on here?
Just listen. Are you there?
The Sorcerers Revelation.
So it seems you've discovered your unpleasant nature.
How are you?
We might ask the same question.
Which I recorded a few weeks back. The beginning of February it was, so that's almost 2 months ago. A lot has changed since then, but not the basic tenets of the model that I'm providing. Take it with a big pinch of salt. I really don't know what the hell I'm talking about. But I felt and I feel that there's a very great need within this community, within this framework of alternate perceptions, for a model that will essentially challenge, if not shatter, all the previous models. I think that this is a very basic requirement now for those of us who wish to go beyond, who wish to make the leap from consensus to a new, more flexible, more mutating, transforming frame of reference, reality, what have you. We have to allow concepts, ideas, perspectives into our consciousness that actually will undermine and unravel everything that we think we know. This is a very basic thing. This is cognitive dissonance taken to a full identity deconstruction level. Everything that we believe we know to be true, and that includes, of course, the alternate perceptions model that many of us adhere to, and that I myself have been inevitably and yet somewhat unwittingly upholding. So this is what I wanted to speak about briefly. It will be relevant to why, of course, the podcast is ending. I did discuss with Henrik for 2 hours almost, Red Ice, and to some extent I covered my reasons for ending the podcast, but there were certain things I didn't manage to say to Henrik, perhaps partly because I didn't have the heart to, I didn't have the guts to, in terms of actually really challenging what Henrik himself was doing, which inevitably would have entailed that also. Not that I held back, I simply didn't get a chance or get around to really expressing everything that I had in my mind and my heart, and so I will attempt to do that to some extent now. In the second Matrix movie, Matrix Reloaded, there appeared to be a suggestive subplot, a thread running through the movie, the scenes in Zion particularly, suggesting that the so-called real world that Neo was now in Zion, once it had unplugged, was itself a second Matrix, and that it wasn't reality at all. This was only hinted at, and it was more the rumours and the buzz of fans and what have you afterwards that I think created this meme, more than necessarily the Wachowskis or the people behind the Wachowskis themselves. But it was a very powerful idea, and those of us who hadn't lost all interest in the franchise by then were hoping that the third movie would deliver on this in some way, and of course it didn't on that or anything else. But the idea remains as a very powerful and tantalizing notion, and really an inevitable one. If one were to think about it, if one were to develop the storyline and the themes of Matrix fully, or at least even partially, one would have to consider this idea and finally allow it to be an inevitability, which is that artificial intelligence would be aware of the unplugging movement, or even perhaps aware of the possibility of it before it even began, and so it would arrange exactly this structure, or this subterfuge, by which there would be agents disguised as unplugged humans who were misleading those humans within the Matrix who were beginning to wake up down channels so that they believed that they were actually preparing for unplugging and then actually being unplugged, and instead of actually being unplugged, they would simply have their consciousness moved into a new matrix. Their bodies would remain in the pods, but they would experience through consciousness the end of one reality and the entering into a whole new reality tunnel, which would simulate a world outside the matrix and perhaps be almost identical to it, but wouldn't actually be it. This, I think, is something that our handlers, the Masonic Sorcerers, and those behind the Masonic Sorcerers, the old seers, I think that this is something that they have prepared for. They have prepared for us in one way or another, in ways either subtle or overt, delicate or fine. It's a trickery that we ourselves would be complicit with. It doesn't actually entail or require an outside intelligence scheming behind the scenes, but we can allow that also. Either way, the tendency of the personal identity to somehow undermine its own transformation, to undermine the spirit, to find a loophole by which it can somehow enter into eternity, into reality, and retain its sense of identity, cannot be overestimated. It's the trickiest critter that there is, the personal self, and the ways in which we will conspire to avoid the truth, no matter what. So, this is what I didn't bring up with Henrik. This is my feeling about the alternate perceptions community, such as it is, the new counterculture, that we are being led to mislead. We are being given so simulated knowledge, or knowledge that is framed in such a way that we aren't able to fully assimilate it or synthesize it, but we're able to wield it, to propagate it, and so it's knowledge without context, and it's creating a surrogate experience of awakening. It's not entirely surrogate, but it is not entirely clean either. Essentially, it is framed within the same context that we are supposedly getting free of. It's all about doing. Everything within this context of reality, social reality in which we live, everything is a doing. And doing is what we just cannot rely upon to get clear of this, because it all comes from the place of the ego, place of autonomy, sovereignty, personal identity, which actually thinks that it is the doer rather than the doing. If we allow ourselves to be a doing, then we enter into being, and what is being done is done through us, but not by us. We may witness it, but we can't actually direct it in any way. Nothing works but surrender. And the entire paradigm that has been subtly created through the centuries as an alternate perception of our reality, which is going to lead us to freedom, although it consists of components which resonate